spring. All winter, I'd been dreaming of this time, waiting for the warmth to return when I could finally plant a proper garden. I did a little test gardening in the fall, which had questionable results. Mostly lessons, if you know what I mean. I made a video about all that, and if you're a beginner gardener interested in regenerative gardening, that video might be helpful to you, so I'll link it below. Now, this was my first time gardening with the whole growing season before me. I was super excited about it and really wanted to fix some of my previous mistakes. Whether or not it worked is yet to be seen. Hi, and welcome to today's video. We're preparing the garden for spring planting using regenerative gardening principles. If you're new here, hi, my name's Jessica. Ugh. If you're new here, my name's Jessica. I'm 27, living in Georgia, and I have always wanted to have my own garden. I grew up on a farm and we always had a garden there, but I never really got interested in it for myself till my late teens. And the idea of self-sufficiency, canning, preserving, and of course, all of the health benefits of growing your own fresh produce is what really got me interested in gardening. However, I got married young and my husband and I have always been living in rentals, so I haven't had much opportunity. Yes! Yay! Got it. Whew. Okay, I got married young and always lived in rentals, so didn't have much opportunity for gardening, except for a couple porch pots. Until last summer when my husband and I moved into the country into an above the garage suite, and our landlords, who are super chill and amazing, were totally cool with me using the garden. So I was definitely going to take advantage of that. And like I said, a big reason why I got interested in gardening was because of the health benefits of growing your own food. So in line with that, in the interest of making things as healthy as possible, I also learned about regenerative gardening. So that is what I tried to implement with my garden. Specifically, I'm using a method called farming God's way. And with spring in full force, it was time to get out and start preparing the ground. First things first, we needed to get rid of all the weeds. A ton of weeds came up over winter, and with conventional gardening, you just till everything up, turning the weeds under the dirt's surface. But tilling disrupts the soil, makes it susceptible to wind and water erosion, and kills many of the organisms and microorganisms living there. So instead, with a regenerative farming practice, we smother mulch, which means I needed to find some hay or straw. Thankfully, on one of my many walks, I noticed one of my neighbors had a couple old saggy hay bales just sitting on their yard. So I thought I would see if I could use them. After dropping a note in their mailbox, introducing myself and asking about the bales, he was willing to give me one. He even brought it over with his own truck with this truck bed that lifts up and was able to plop the bale right down in the garden. It was perfect. And I love country folk. Then it was time to cut down the weeds. If we'd had a weed whacker, I would have absolutely used that. Instead, I got a nice little workout in. Not only was I cutting down all the weeds, but I pulled a few wild onions for cooking, living out my little forager dreams, gathering some worms for my worm compost farm, and flattened out these ruts from the hay bale delivery. On a side note, I was so amazed to find so many worms because the previous summer, right after we had arrived on the farm here, I wanted to make myself a little worm farm, start preparing for the garden, but when I went out and I dug around a little bit, I could not find any worms. I could hardly find any worms. But I realized later, this spring, seeing so many worms around, it was probably because it was the height of summer, the height of the heat, and The worms were probably all just deeper in the ground, trying to stay cool. So there are some times of the year you can find worms and sometimes you can't. So good to know. When the weeds were sufficiently cut, it was time to cover everything thickly in hay. I did this beginning of March, which ideally would have been done beginning of February because you want your smother mulch on for at least 2 months, and the longer is better. But at least I got it done. Mulching the garden was also super fun because the cats were out there playing in the hay, which was super cute. I love my cats. I'm a cat person for sure. With the garden mulched, it was basically time to wait until planting. So I did a couple last preparations, including getting seeds, doing a little bit of organic ant control, and tested out the soil pH to see if it needed any help.
Would you hold me if I told you we can just run away? So come, my darling, let me help you. We can follow the sun and leave the rain for.
Well, welcome back to the garden. Oh, the lens is dirty. Spring is upon us, and I'm super excited to be working in the garden again. I've already started preparing the soil, cutting down all the weeds and mulching it like crazy. I just finished doing a little bit of a soil test. I really thought the soil would be acidic because that's often the case in Georgia, according to my Google searches. But doing the acid test showed that it wasn't really acidic. So I might want to do an alkaline test to see if the soil is basic. To do this test at home, super simple. You just get like a spoonful of dirt and then a spoonful of purified water. Distilled water is ideal because it won't have like minerals to either side of the pH scale. You just want something neutral. And then to test the acidity, you sprinkle some baking soda on there, and baking soda typically reacts to acid by bubbling. Nothing happened. The same thing would be if you're testing for alkalinity, then you would have the water in the dirt and then put vinegar in there, and then the vinegar would react with bubbling to the alkalinity in the dirt. So I guess I'll need to do that test next, but if it's not too acidic, then that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. The next thing is to plant, and this year is going to be better than the fall planting, for sure. Well, today we have a little more prep work to do on the garden. This is the last thing I wanted to do before planting anything, and that is to take care of some ants. Yes, in Georgia we have fire ants, and they can be so brutal. So there is one ant pile in the garden, and I wanted to take care of that, but I wanted to do it in a non-toxic way. Too many chemicals in our world already. So after doing a little bit of searching on YouTube, the cows are I will be mixing up a little solution using orange essential oil. I just got this on Amazon. And then this stuff, it's called Garrett juice. I guess it is a compost tea concentrate liquid fertilizer. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna mix in 2 ounces of this, and then about 3/4 of an ounce of the essential oil, and the rest with water, and see how that goes. this is ready to go, so I'm gonna try it out. Right there, that is my alleged ant pile. So the homeowners here, they have a rabbit. And so whenever the rabbit is done with the rabbit's little, not litter box, but the rabbit equivalent of a litter box, anyways, has wood chips and straw, then we've been dumping that on the garden. The ant colony moved in on this particular one. It's looking pretty dormant right now, but we'll check it out. And obviously the cats love hanging around wherever I go. So cute. All right, let's see if we see anything interesting. I'm actually not seeing anything. I think there was a worm in there. Oh yeah, there's like a worm in there, but literally no ants. Well, that's miraculous. Okay, well, solves that problem. I do know, however, that there is another ant pile right here by this tree. So, by this lovely little tree, there's an ant pile down there. So why don't we just deal with that one instead? Right down there. Yep, this one. And I'm pretty sure this will be an active one. So let's just test it out, shall we? Ooh, there they go. All right, now we know what we need to do. Dang. That's crazy. They are going everywhere. But they're definitely slowing down a bit, which is exactly what the guy on the tutorial I watched said they would do. So that's interesting. The cats are, of course, exploring. So I guess the idea with the this concoction is that the orange oil like eats through their exoskeleton, killing the ants, and then the compost is to help break them down, feed the microbiome of the soil. I don't know, something like that. The guy in the tutorial I watched knew more about it. I'm just testing it out here, but we will see how that goes. Hopefully it kills the ants. If so, I may as well go and spray around some more ant piles around the farm, because there are so many ant piles. Crazy amount of fire ants here in Georgia, which is not very pleasant at all. So that's about that. See how the prep goes. And now I just need to plant the garden.
Stick with me and I will guarantee you're never lost among the crowd with me. Never lost among the crowd with me. Everywhere you go I'll be